Welcome to Here to Be Human, a multi-dimensional soul. This is not just a podcast, it's a remembering. A space where soul meets skin and the sacred meets the messy. Where spirit is not something you escape into, it's something you embody, here in this beautiful, chaotic, breathtaking human life. Each episode is a living transmission, a weaving of energy, truth, reflection, and remembrance, with questions for your soul, messages from beyond, and invitations to meet yourself in ways you've never dared to before. Whether you're walking through shadow or starlight, you belong here. I am Julie, your guide, your mirror, your voice in the void. This is Here to Be Human, and you are right on time. You were never meant to do this alone. Even your soul remembers the sound of other hearts. This is Here to Be Human, a multidimensional soul. Season 2, Episode 7, Community and Conscious Relationship. Remembering we're wired for belonging. So before we delve deeper into all of the channeled messages and the teachings, I want to take a moment here just to reflect on what does true connection feel like in your body? And where in your life have you been walking alone for too long? What does true connection feel like in your body? And where in your life have you been walking alone for too long? And just breathe. Feel into this. You can write it down in your journal. Or just simply allow the sensation or any insights to arrive for you. So you've done the inner work. You've turned inward again and again, but evolution asks for company. There's sacred medicine in being seen, in being mirrored by another's nervous system that says, I see you, I won't fix you, but I'm here. That is what shame dissolves in safe sight. Healing is relational. It's where integration happens when another heart holds resonance. And this is really important when we look at healing. And every time you have gone to a therapist or a holistic practitioner or an energy healer, it's because the healing is the most profound when it is witnessed. When someone can see the shift that is happening with you and when you finally feel like you are seen by another. And this is why it's really important that this is not about like you can't be alone, you can't have your own space or you can't be single. It's got nothing to do with that. This is more about that we are wired to belong. We are wired to have connection outside of our own connection to the self. And I feel like it's really important that we don't forget about that, because a lot of the times, you know, when we're talking about a healing journey or people talk about like shadow work, it always feels like it's a thing that you do by yourself. It's like no one else understands what you're going through. And that is true to some extent. People can empathize with what you might be going through. Maybe they've had a similar experience, but yours will always be unique. And so if we can try and move away from this is only happening to me and no one understands it, and this is a very lonely road when we're going on the healing journey, if you can try and just shift the perspective in certain aspects or, try and shift the whole thing where possible, doing it with someone, being witnessed by someone, and this doesn't always have to be a holistic practitioner. It could be about sharing the healing journey that you're on with someone that you love, whether it's family, friends, partner. That's also about where you will feel that connection with another, where someone is witnessing this healing journey. So it doesn't always have to be that you're being witnessed by your counselor, your practitioner, your energy healer, or someone who is working through the aspects that you're wanting to heal from. So here's a little bit of a personal story prompt that you can pop into your journal. So I want you to ask yourself this question. From my own experience, I've had times when someone simply sat with me in silence, and that presence healed what 1,000 words couldn't. Now, hopefully everyone has had a moment where someone was just able to be in your presence, to just show up and not necessarily try and fix anything, not try and necessarily offer you any advice, and just kind of sitting in that silence together kind of made everything feel like something had shifted. So this is really where you can take a moment to see if what you shared with that person was this element of being witnessed during your healing. Or maybe have you done this for someone else? Have you sat with someone in silence, or has someone sat in silence with you, or both? And it's really a beautiful experience to have. If you haven't had it, I encourage you to find the right people in your world, or to even manifest new beautiful connections in your world where someone could do this for you. I know this has happened to me. I've had people do it for me. I know I've done it for thousands of people, like I've obviously in my career, but also in my very close-knit circle of family and friends. And it does make a world of difference when you're sitting in this space without actually having to explain anything, without having to answer any questions, and to just be and know that that person is showing up for you in the capacity that you're able to be present with them, if that makes sense. So yes, I encourage you, find those people if you have not had this experience before. Try and be that person for someone else. And I think that, even that in itself feels equally, I guess, I'm not sure if rewarding is the right way, but it's definitely a sense of fulfillment and a deeper connection with the other person when you can just show up for them, and it's not about trying to do anything other than be with them. So now we're going to go into some channeled messages, and again, feel free to channel along with me if you would like. And you can even pause here, do your own messages, and then jump back in and see if there's an alignment in the messages, or if there's just a deeper story unfolding when you and I are channeling at the same time. So our first journal prompt here is, what happens within us when we are truly witnessed without judgment? So what happens within us when we are truly witnessed without judgment? I feel like the first thing that happens is almost like, I do feel like your nervous system will relax. So you probably will feel like a physical sensation where you can breathe, or like you take a big sigh out, and you just start to be able to feel free to communicate about a lot of things. So what happens is, if you feel like you can say something without being judged on, say, a topic, you'll start to feel a lot more comfortable. Your nervous system, that fight flight, will switch off, and you'll go more into kind of like this feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling heard, but also that whatever you're thinking and feeling in that moment, whether it is your reality or whether it's something you might change down the track, or it's just kind of what your belief system is in that moment, you know that you can share it with someone who isn't judging you. Like, they're really just truly there to witness you in all of your glory, whatever that means to you. And glory, I feel like there's glory in pain, in happiness, because without the pain, we can't grow, right? We all know that kind of saying, and we've all been through that. So I feel like allowing someone to truly witness all of you definitely makes your nervous system relax. The other thing that also happens is, one, you are automatically going to feel more comfortable with that person to speak freely on a regular basis. You might find that even in that person's presence, you don't even have to say anything, like just who you are, how you show up. You know they're not going to judge you. You know they're just going to love you for you. But also what happens is you will start to feel that you could do that for them, or you could do that for someone else as well. Like, so almost like something shifts within you where you start to feel a lot more freer. And what will end up happening is you'll be able to use your discernment fairly quickly to see if other people in your world can actually hold that same space of just witnessing you truly without judgment. And then the more people you feel are there for you to do that, and sometimes it could be just you're the one who's doing it for them, and that kind of allows them also to be a bit more freer. You'll find that your communication, your connections, what you're wanting to share, there's going to be a lot of depth in not just what you're articulating, but what you're feeling. It's like having someone in that space do that for you, and vice versa. You begin to unlock aspects of yourself that maybe you hid away. Eventually, what happens is we hide it away from other people, and then we hide it away from ourselves so we don't accidentally say it. So by having this unfold, you'll find that you will be able to go through the deeper layers of your own self to really see what you have hidden from yourself that now you're ready to actually see and ready to kind of release or deal with it or seek assistance in order to move past it. So that's what really happens within us when we are truly witnessed without judgment. Our second journal prompt is, how does being seen allow the body to release what it was holding alone? Ooh, how does being seen allow the body to release what it was holding alone? Again, I keep getting told there's a level of safety that I feel has been taken away from us. Due to rules, regulations, society, whatever terminology you're wanting to use, and when that safety is taken away from us, or we don't feel that we can be safe around others, we start to go inward a lot. And there's nothing wrong with going inward. Like, going inward definitely gives you a lot of clarity. You have aha moments, and having moments to yourself in space is really required in a world that's very busy, and that can kind of, make our nervous system be on high alert, right? But the other thing is, when we're not feeling safe, when we're feeling like we're going inward maybe a little bit too much, then what ends up happening is we feel the weight of our situation like as if it is greater than it actually should be. And that's because when the body can't release anything, or feels like it can't release anything because there's you're not being seen, or you feel like no one is actually listening to you, that level of pressure, think of it being like underwater. When you go underwater, say, whatchamacallit, in those, not in the scuba diving ones, but what are they called? Like little submarines. Submarines, because we all go around submarines all the time, right? But think of like the pressure that gets like pushed onto the submarine, and even though the people in it, they can't feel it because the cabin's been pressurized. Same like in an airplane, right? Everything's being pressurized. Think of that pressure. If one part of, say, the submarine, I don't know, a panel comes off, all of a sudden the pressure is out of balance. And when it's out of balance, all of a sudden, your stability isn't there anymore. Water could start to leak into the submarine, and then eventually the whole thing combusts, right? So think of your body feeling like that submarine, and you're holding all of that pressure. And there's so much fear in holding it tightly that if you let go of one piece, you may feel like your whole world would combust. But when you're being seen, all of a sudden, your body goes, oh, hang on a moment. There's someone else here that can see this pressure that I'm under. Now, you may not be able to see the pressure technically, but you're seeing the individual for what they're holding on to and how they're doing it all by themselves. And by holding out your hand or allowing them to know that you're there to assist, what ends up happening, it's like the body begins to move away from being all the way down deep into the sea, and that level of like, think of the hermit kind of inwardly going, and it starts to lift and starts to rise to the surface. And as we know, the higher we go to the top of the body of water, the less pressure there is, the less pressure that could damage the submarine, so to speak, or even the body itself. And so what ends up happening is by being seen, the body goes, oh, wow, I don't have to hold on to this all alone. And it starts to rise and rise. And so as everything is rising, you're allowing it to be released. And you're allowing the pressure to be moved away from you. And this is why it's important, where you can. I know it's not an easy thing for everyone to do, but where you can, speak whatever it is that is causing you to feel this immense pressure where you feel like you're having to hold everything on your own. And because the moment you speak it, a part of that gets released, the pressure gets released. And the more that you speak, the more that you feel like you're being seen, the body starts to relax, because that inner submarine is rising to the surface, but it's not rising to the surface and creating chaos. It's rising to the surface and it's releasing the pressure that you've been holding on into your body. So here is a journal prompt for you. And your prompt is, who has offered you that kind of presence, and how might you offer it to someone else? So who has offered you that kind of presence, and how might you offer it to someone else? So as we move on to our next segment, this is really called the sacred mirror, that conscious relating as practice. So conscious relationship isn't necessarily a label, it's actually just a practice in itself. And it's how we show up with awareness, curiosity, and courage. To love consciously is to communicate without blame, name your needs without shame, and stay present through discomfort. And so, as we've been told, every connection is a mirror. And what that means is it's allowing the revealing within you where love flows freely, and then where it still contracts, like where it's pulling away, where is this kind of like fear coming from? So I feel like sometimes in the spiritual community, it's kind of like when people say like, oh, you're mirroring each other. And sometimes even when I hear it, I'd be like, oh, I don't think so. Like if someone is causing me harm, I'm not mirroring that towards them, right? So I feel like this is kind of where we just got to get our terminology a little bit more in sync, because in the work that I do, I hear a lot of my clients kind of turning away from the spiritual commercialized words because it doesn't relate. It feels like it's all about flowers and unicorns and love and light, and then you can't feel like you can be yourself, or you can't feel like you can get angry. That's not real spirituality. That's just commercialized spirituality to make everything seem all crystals and sage. Anyway, which I love all those things too. But back to my point here. When we're talking about how every connection is a mirror, it's more like so when someone is showing you love, and you're showing them love back, you can actually see how the flow is moving within the two people, right? But when you're feeling like something is like, ugh, like stopping within you, it's because the other person may have said something that is now asking you to look at why you felt resistance to it. So again, we're not talking about people who are actively, maliciously, narcissistically, coming at you. We're talking about when you're with people that you care about, that you trust, and you can feel when love is like flowing freely. But when they say something, there's a level of resistance, even though deep down you know it to be true, whatever it is that they've brought up. And it may not even be them talking about you, they might just be talking about a subject, and it's caused a level of resistance within yourself. And I think this is really important, that that's the mirroring that happens in real conscious connections, because when that's happening, the other person can see you resisting it, and then they're there to hold space for you to understand why would you be resisting what I just said, or does that make sense? It's kind of like, this is where real deep relationships can start to move away from surface level relationships that were shown in the movies, and start really allowing yourselves to delve a bit more deeper into the parts of yourselves that maybe you haven't really known all of those things that you like or dislike or want to explore. And that's what these type of connections, where they're mirroring this beautiful level of love and resistance, can actually give you not just the growth that you require, but also almost like it gives you yourself permission to delve deeper into who you really are. So here again is a personal story prompt for yourself. So you can write in your journal. So ask yourself from memory, I've had moments when a relationship became my mirror, showing me parts of myself I didn't want to see, but I needed to love. So write in your journal, where have you had moments when you were in a relationship, doesn't have to be romantic, that relationship became your mirror, and they were showing you parts of yourself that you didn't want to see, but that needed to be loved and needed to feel love from you, not from the other person. And just allow yourself, in your own time, to really delve deep into this. And maybe there you might even have a memory where you're the one who witnessed the other person not wanting to see these parts of themselves, but they needed to, because you could see there was so much love that was needing to be there. So that is your personal story prompt. Now, let's tune back into spirit to see kind of mirror, like I want to understand a little bit more about mirrors and truth from more of a divinely guided perspective. Okay, so our first journal prompt is, how can we practice truth in relationship without needing to be perfect? So how can we practice truth in relationship without needing to be perfect? Interesting. First of all, I think being truthful with yourself and writing out what it is that you're requiring. And sometimes just by practicing writing things out, and it's not even about just what you need. It might be you're wanting to respond to something with truth, but you're feeling like, oh, I don't know if I say this, is it gonna land? But I need to say it like perfectly so that way they don't hate me. I don't really feel like there's ever a perfect way to speak your truth in a relationship that you care about. If you care about the other person and you care about their feelings and you want this relationship to continue, family, friend, romance, work, whatever, you're always going to feel like, oh my God, like if I say this, how are they going to take it? And you always try and perfect what it is that you're wanting to say. The problem with that is that it becomes inauthentic. you're more likely to offend the person, because what I have found, and I've witnessed this and I've experienced this in my early years, the other person doesn't understand what you're saying, because you begin to weave this story that isn't really your truth, because you're trying to get the right words out because you don't want to hurt the other person. And then you walk away feeling like, I don't know if they understood me. Like, hopefully they did. And then you just, fingers crossed, the next time it happens, they'll know what to do. And then the person that you're talking to is just like, what the fuck was all that about? Like, okay, I'll do what you said. But really, it wasn't landing for them. So when you remove this level of I need to say this perfectly so I don't upset them, the best thing is you can practice this truth telling in like micro moments. So it doesn't have to be this whole big, heavy conversation all the time. We're like, oh, we need to talk about XYZ. I feel like if you can practice just micro moments of truth with, whoever it is that you're dealing with. And I feel like the more that you have those micro moments of truth, what it does is you'll start to see that the other person gets what you're saying, and they go, oh yeah, I totally get it. And it could just be like, yep, no worries, I'll remember that for next time. Or like they apologize if they had done something wrong. Or they can kind of look at where you're coming from and how you're perceiving a situation. Sometimes it's not because the other person has done something wrong, in inverted commas. It's because their perspective on a situation is different to yours. But by telling them or articulating to them micro truths along the way, they start to really understand how your mind is working and how you're perceiving a situation. And then they can articulate to you, oh wow, actually I saw that differently. So I'm sorry that kind of came out that way from your end, but this is how I see it. And then once you have that dialogue, that's truth. And that allows the relationship to go even more deeper, like bit by bit, layer per layer, because all of a sudden you both feel that you are speaking your truth, fingers crossed, hopefully all the time. But I understand that there's moments that you might feel you can't for whatever reason. And that could just be some old past hurts or insecurity. So you wait for the right time, which is completely fine. All I'm going to say is if you're going to wait for the right time, don't just kind of bombard yourself and bombard the other person or the other parties involved, because then it becomes very confusing and it's like the emotions will override the logical mind to be able to look at, well, it'll do that for everyone involved. And then no one will be able to see what's going on logically. And it's great from an emotional perspective, yes, to release and say what it is that you need to say. But at the same time, once the emotional stuff has been dealt with, there still needs to be a logical conversation about how does this not happen again? Otherwise, you do the emotional thing, which is, I've seen this in a lot of relationships. They do the emotional thing and then everyone thinks, oh, that's great, I got that off my chest. And then the same thing happens like 2 months down the track, because new ways of speaking in a logical sense and looking again at the perspective of everyone that's related to whatever the situation was, that hasn't necessarily been dealt with. And that's why micro moments of truth will lead to bigger moments of truth. And then you'll just be able to just be yourself and be truthful. And it can feel a little bit daunting at the beginning when you say it, but trust in the process bit by bit. And then eventually you'll feel like, yep, this is how it is. I know for myself, I will have those micro moments of truth. I will then have bigger conversations of truth. And if I feel that like I'm still not being heard, the way I tend to work, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, I tend to withdraw my energy, because if I'm having these conversations and the other party is acknowledging that they are understanding what is going on, but then they keep doing it, then either I need to withdraw my energy, take a step back and relook at the situation, which then forces them space and time to reflect on, well, where has Julie gone? Like, why am I feeling like a disconnect in the energy here? And then you can come back in the middle and have a conversation. Because just because you're conscious about what it is that you're doing with practicing your micro truth, that doesn't mean that the other people that you're doing it with are ready to practice their micro truths. And so sometimes this, and it's not a push and pull, I'm not talking about ghosting and breadcrumbing and all the bullshit that goes on in the dating world these days. I'm talking about still being kind and courteous, but when you withdraw your energy slightly, people can feel it. You know, we're all wired we're connected to one another. And this withdrawal can make someone literally in an instant be like, something feels off here, right? So withdrawing your energy also means, you know, that you're not going to continuously overgive in the situation, and you're not going to continuously say the same thing over and over and over again, because then what ends up happening is frustration for both parties. So that's kind of how we can practice truth in relationship. And again, it's not about being perfect. The more you try and be perfect, the more it doesn't work out. The more miscommunication happens, and then it turns into a bit of a shit show. And then you got to like work backwards to try and regain the balance and stability in the relationship again. So our next channeling prompt is, what does it mean to be fully seen and still safe? What does it mean to be fully seen and still safe? To be fully seen, so we know to be fully seen, our nervous system relaxes, but to feel safe in it as well, that's a whole nother level. And I don't feel like this is something that you can do with everybody. I think this is something that is done amongst people that are in your real close-knit community, or people that you are working with from a healing perspective, like, you know, a practitioner, like, you know, kinesiology, and doesn't have to be holistic counseling, whatever. All those places, and hopefully that, you know, you've chosen an ethical person, they will always fully see you, and you will still feel safe in their presence. And what ends up happening is an emotional release will take place. Yeah. So when we say, what does it mean to be fully seen and still safe? It means that when you show up as your most authentic self, whether that day you're feeling flat or depressed or excited, or whatever your emotional well-being is in that moment, and whatever you are working through, you feel safe enough to express all the parts of you in front of someone. That's really what it means to be fully seen and still safe. And there's only a few people that you can truly, truly do that with. A lot of the times it's your partner, if you have a good, healthy, conscious relationship. And this goes to not just your partner, but as long as you have a fully conscious relationship that's loving and open and understanding and acceptable, that's kind of where you can explore this. And that comes, again, through a therapist, if you've been working with them for a long time, a partner, you know, your BFFs, and your family members. So again, not all those people might create this for you, but most of the time that's where this style of individual lives in your world. And when you get to that place where you feel like you're fully seen and you still feel safe, and again, being fully seen doesn't mean that they fully understand you. That doesn't mean that they fully accept whatever it is that you're about to do or your decision or your opinion, but they see you and they still make you feel safe. When you get to that point, it's almost like as if there isn't anything you can't communicate and feel and not feel stupid for saying it and not feel shameful or not none of that type of stuff. And I hope that everybody experiences that. And I'm hoping that everyone that's listening has that type of scenario. I know I definitely do. I'm very lucky. I have a great family and even like extended members of my family. So I'm not talking about just my siblings and my parents. Like, you know, I have aunties and uncles and cousins. Again, not huge, but like the ones that I grew up with. I've always felt that I can be me around them, and I feel like they fully see everything that I do, and I feel safe in their presence. There isn't anyone in my inner circle of my family that I would say I can't talk to them about anything. And that has obviously taken up, that's time that's being built over time. So this doesn't happen automatically. But I feel like, look, for me, I probably was at an advantage just because of my spiritual side. And being European, like, you know, all us Europeans, we love, you know, Turkish coffee cup readings and all that type of stuff and tarot cards. And, you know, we love the spiritual side of things, right? I've grown up with it. So it was very easy to be fully seen amongst people that didn't think I was weird. So I think having that allowed me to feel this. But that's ultimately what it means to be fully seen and still safe. It's not about everyone agreeing with you. It's not about everyone being on your side. It's about you being able to articulate who you are, say, do whatever it is you need to do. You're accepted as you are, and that is where safety really lies into it. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, my siblings don't hang shit on me for stuff that I do, but it's fun, it's exciting, it's banter, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I can be myself, they can be themselves, and we all feel safe in that space. You know, and I've seen, you know, partners from, like, you know, my sister, my brother, like, you know, even like nieces and nephews and all that type of stuff. They all feel the same in, like, when they come and spend time with all of us, because I think I do feel like it comes naturally if you have that mentality where people, like, you accept people for who they are. They can be different. That's all cool. But as long as it's a two-way street, that's what's really important. So that's what it means. That feels like a very long answer, but I had to, like, share some experience so you can kind of get the context of where I was coming from. So anyway, back over to you. So this is your journal prompt. Where are you still hiding to be loved? And what would happen if you let yourself be seen there? So where are you still hiding to be loved? And what would happen if you let yourself be seen there? Okay, so as we're moving along, our last segment before we then move into our integration piece, belonging. Remember that you belong here. And belonging isn't fitting in, it's being met as you are. We forget that community is not earned through perfection, it's remembered through presence. just like I was talking about growing up in my family. That's my community. Your humanity is not too much. It's the bridge between you and the world. And when you let yourself belong to life, then life belongs to you. So, again, going back to what we were just discussing a few moments ago about the importance of having your community, having your tribe. And again, that's not being built because you know how to speak perfectly or you say the perfect things that's not going to upset anyone. It's about just being you and being present, being yourself, but also accepting others for who they are. And when you accept people for who they are, you're not out there trying to change them to, think that you're bettering them if they do it this way. Real community is not earned through perfection. So we're going to go and look at some more channeling. I feel like this is a really big channeling kind of vibed episode. Anyway, okay, so let's have a look. What keeps us believing that we must hide our truth to belong? What keeps us believing that we must hide our truth to belong? Interesting. Society has definitely played a big part in this. Now, I'm not talking about I believe that we should be kind and have manners and, care for one another. That's normally ingrained in the human being. This is more about when we're going into, or maybe even forced into certain institutions or organizations, that's kind of what keeps us believing that we have to hide our truth, right? So how many times have, like when you were younger, and you would have learned this when you were younger, where your parents may have taken you to somewhere and they've gone, well, you need to do it this way because this is our belief system. And then you hide who you are because you feel like, well, I need to belong to here because that's where my family is, right? And then as you grow up, you have the same kind of programming running through your system that, if you like someone or you want to be part of this organization or institution or like membership group or whatever, you have to have the same belief systems. You can't really speak your opinion or your truth because it might kind of alter how other people see you. And then what if you're ostracized from this group because you feel like you belong there? True belonging doesn't ever make you feel that you cannot be yourself. I'm going to say that again. True belonging does never make you feel that you cannot be yourself. If you are somewhere where you fear speaking your truth is going to make everyone not like you or that you're not going to be part of that group anymore, then that's not your group. They're not your people. It's time to find your people or possibly speak your truth, and you might find that they didn't know something about you, and that makes the connection even more deeper. And then you go like, oh my God, I do belong here because I can now speak my truth and they are still accepting me and I'm still part of this group. And now I feel like I belong even more. But if someone says that, you can't do that, or this is not what we believe in and you need to leave, then they were never your people. And you were literally, what's that saying? Like a square peg in a round hole. If you're the square peg, go find your square peg people. Don't try and force yourself just to belong into other parts, other groups, other situations, because it will never allow you to truly belong, and you won't ever feel fulfilled. You'll always be tiptoeing around. And life is too short to be tiptoeing around people and things. I'm not talking about having manners when you're at a restaurant or, at work, and, there's protocols and things like that. I'm talking about you choosing to be in a group and you still can't be yourself. And again, this is old programming, and it can take a while to move away from it. But if you are connected to a group that you're just like, "Oh, I don't really belong here," and maybe you have spoken your truth, but they haven't said leave, but you just feel like, "Oh, there's a weird ass vibe," right? Start before you move away from that group completely, start finding other groups that you can be a part of based on what you really want to do, whether it is an activity, a sport, an education piece, or you just go do the things that you love, and then naturally the right people start to gravitate to you because you're feeling more fulfilled in what it is that you're doing. So I'd encourage you to do those things first before you disconnect from a whole group of friends. Because the more that you find your tribe over here, you'll probably find that you'll realize that this friendship group, they don't have to go. It might mean that you just look at them differently and they fill a different place in your life as opposed to moving away from them completely. And then you have other parts, other people that fulfill other aspects of your life. I'm a big believer in not one group or one person can fulfill every single need that you have as a human being. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I feel like you need to be part of the village to feel like you're getting the best out of everyone in the village. You're being your best, and you're getting the best from them. Because again, you have certain friends that can be there for you completely in aspects. And then you've got work friends that are more there to understand work. Then you've got a partner who understands different depths of you. And then you might have a running club and they understand different parts of you. If we put pressure on one group or one person to fulfill all our needs and be the sole provider for our emotional well-being, or where we feel like we can land everything and they just have to catch us, then you're setting yourself up, and you're setting them, the group or the individual, up for failure as well, which is why it's important in all conscious relationships that there needs to be individuality. That doesn't mean that you can't have very similar interests, but creating space, healthy space from one another, to focus on passion projects that you can that they are just yours to do, or going and hanging out with your friends because you do brunch every Sunday and that's been your thing for the last 5 years. It's really important in conscious relationships that that person, that partner, or even that best friend doesn't hold the whole space for you, that you have other people in your life. Because when there's more people underneath the foundation to help carry the load, it's not going to wobble so much as if you've just got one person. It's going to like a seesaw, up and down, up and down. So hopefully that answered that question. Now, your journal prompt here is: what small act of connection could you offer today or receive to remind yourself that you belong? So what small act of connection could you offer today or receive to remind yourself that you belong? Now, our integration ritual is the sacred mirror invocation. So I just want you to sit quietly, place one hand on your heart and one on your belly, and you can close your eyes if you'd like to. Take one deep breath in and out. And you can say this in your mind or out loud, so repeat after me. I am not alone. I am allowed to be witnessed. I welcome the mirrors who see me without trying to fix me. I belong because I exist. My humanity is worthy of love. Now bring to your mind's eye someone that you trust. Might just be the name or the sensation that you're feeling, or possibly you see them in your mind's eye, you see their face. And send them silent gratitude, or even a message later today. And while you're in this moment, ask yourself, what part of me is ready to be seen by others just as I am? And take a breath in and out. Now remember that you are never meant to heal alone. You're meant to be witnessed, you're meant to be held, and you're meant to be heard. And your humanity isn't too much. It's the medicine that connects us all. And our next episode is Power and Permission. Who are you when you stop asking to be chosen? So until then, gather your people, your tribe, speak your truth, and let yourself be seen. Thank you for being here fully. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you have a follow-up question, a reflection you'd like to share, or a way this conversation aligned with where you are right now, I'd love to hear from you. And if there are specific questions you'd like me to ask Spirit in future episodes based on what's coming up for you, send me a direct message at here.to.be.human.podcast on the Instagram page. Remember, your voice, your questions, your presence, they're part of this journey too. And if you'd like to connect with me more deeply, you'll find everything, sessions, programs, and updates over at www.moderndayMedium.com.au or on my Instagram page, which is at modern.day.medium. This is your invitation. This is the return. And this is what it means to be human. So until next time, stay with yourself, stay with your soul, and keep choosing this sacred, messy, and miraculous life.